We gon' put your business on display. Yeah, 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 yeah. We gon' put your business on display. I got winners on the way. You know you can't knock the hustle. And if you gotta get in place, then we gon' put your business on display. Grab a seat with Nisha for a minute. And if you got the goods, we can talk about your business. She know what it's like to make a move independently. And I don't fake, it's like that. We've been trusting God like that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, we gon' put your business on display.
Hey, everybody. How are you today? If you are watching, you are joining Insightful Moments with Nisha's network, and I'm super excited to have you guys here today. I'm just going to dive right into this conversation. Let me tell you all something. What a year 2022 has brought us. I mean, like we've just dove right in, and I'm just going to call it the word stress. I have been extremely frustrated and stressed out and happy and sad and emotional, and all the stuff that's going on in the world today has been extremely exhausting. I'm going to say, I'm just being transparent today. And so I am learning how to empower my mind to release the stress. And we know that we have the Lord on our side. We know that God is real. We know that prayer works. We know all these things. But it all starts in the mind and the confession of what we say every day. So if you guys are watching, I think this is a great opportunity. If you have been in a season where it has been stressful, or you know that there is stress all around you, or you have family members or friends or people who have just really been struggling in this season at the beginning of this first quarter of the year, then come on in, grab a cup of tea or coffee or some water, and let's go ahead and empower our mind and release our stress. So today I am super excited to have once again on Nisha's Network, none other than my very own sister friend, Dr. Crystal Brown Lewis. Hi.
Thank you, Nisha. Thank you for having me today. And excuse the technical difficulties. I'm on my iPad because I'm having some difficulties with my computer. So thank you.
That's okay about that. Well, you guys, we're here to talk about empowering our mind and releasing our stress. But I would love for Crystal to introduce herself first, and then we can go ahead and dive into this conversation, which I think is so necessary during this season. So go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're located, your family, et cetera, et cetera.
So my name is Crystal Brown Lewis. I'm a life coach and clinical therapist, and I've been a life coach and clinical therapist for next year will be 30 years.
Woo-hoo!
So I've been doing this for, yes, ma'am. I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been married for almost 31 years, and I am a mother of 4 sons. And why do I have 4 sons? Because I do not have any daughters. So God's got a sense of humor is what I will say. But I am so happy to have an opportunity to speak about a very passionate subject for me, and that's mental health. And I am grateful for the opportunity to spread some knowledge, to hopefully spread some encouragement, and most of all, some information so that those of us who are struggling or having difficulties will be able to receive what they need.
Okay, this is good. So I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit, which I'm sure you'll just love that.
I'll absolutely love it.
I know you do, right? You'll kill me later. But I think that it's so important that people kind of understand, I just like to know, what do you do personally to handle your stress? What are some of the things that you do to empower your mind to release your own stress?
Well, because of what I do and the nature of what I do, which is literally carry others' problems on my shoulders, I also find someone to speak with when I am feeling overwhelmed or just need some uplifting and some encouragement. And I am an introvert by nature. So it is really important for me to have time away to regroup, to reconnect with myself, to settle my emotions, and just have some time to breathe.
Okay.
And I'm an exerciser. I find that that's a huge way for me to get in my head and out of my body by getting some stress release through exercising. And I also do meditation and yoga and all of those wonderful things that calm my mind.
Okay. Not talking to a girlfriend. That probably stress you out more, huh?
You know what? It depends. It depends. It depends. You know what? There are absolutely friends that I go to when I'm feeling stressed and concerned and just need some realignment. But then there are also people that I know that also have their own issues and problems, and they need me to pour into them. And so those would not be the people that I go to for support.
Okay. So I really want to just dive into really talking about the first quarter, and I'll just be transparent. It's been really, really stressful. As many know that we had suffered grief and we have all these things that really have consumed us. Lots of grief this year, like
Mhm,
just like
mhm,
kicking off, like, and then
mhm.
also financially things have shifted just a little bit, not only in my life but just in the business world, and even first quarter for me anyway in the industry I'm in is tough anyway. So I'm kind of used to that after 30 years, but just listening to different people and how they've shifted their money during the pandemic and made some different decisions and really just been so stressed out. What would be the first thing that you would share with people? What to do first when you acknowledge that, okay, I'm starting to get a little stressed out? What is the
Mhm.
first thing you recommend people do?
So before I delve into that question, I want to jump back just a little bit to put some things in context. And that's that we've really been in this cycle of unknown for 2 years.
Okay.
So while this particular quarter for many has felt different, because I think many of us thought after the lifting of some of the restrictions and the vaccine mandates and things like that, things would go back to normal. And I think that's where some of the real frustration is coming from, because the reality is things are still not normal. And for those of us who were expecting it to go back to normal, this is causing a great deal of stress and anxiety. And so, now to answer your question, I think most of us have been holding our breath for 2 years. We've really been holding our breath and just waiting for things to change. And I think that the reality is that this is our new normal. Things will never go back to the way they were. And while that sounds disappointing, the reality is most of us have gained some knowledge, some skills, some self-awareness that helps us to stay encouraged and uplifted even during those times when we feel disappointed, distraught. So I just want to remind us that we have been in a long transition of getting to where we are. So this is not new, even with your family and the sudden death that you experienced in your family. All of that on top of what was going on and what is going on just exacerbates any given situation.
Okay, so that's really good information. But I also want to add on to that is I was thinking about while you were talking different personality types. And I was thinking
Yes,
about
absolutely.
different coping mechanisms.
Hmm,
And so
hmm,
how you respond to different personality types during your stressful moments. So I'm that
hmm,
person that has to talk it out, talk it out, talk it out. Others retreat. And one of the comments
hmm,
was to be alone and to relax.
hmm,
Um,
hmm.
how do you expect others to how can you explain to others? Do you have to let people know ahead of time, hey, I need this or I'm this person? In order to get a better response, because a lot of conflict has risen, me being a coach as well, and just talking to people, more conflict has rose to the surface during this stressful time. So how would
Mhm,
you
mhm.
address letting people know? How should they communicate that? Because most people are not going to say I'm stressed out.
And that's a problem because no one can read your mind. And often communication issues and problems start from assuming that someone else knows what you're experiencing. Even our closest friends, our families, our spouses, our loved ones don't always know exactly what we're going through. So I always encourage people to tell, to ask, to receive the support they need by asking for what they need. Because the reality is, as I said, I'm an introvert. And so the way that I deal with stress is to retreat. which to someone else might seem depressive or sad or some cause of angst. And for me, it's rejuvenating. It gives me an opportunity to breathe, to really assess and reassess my where I am in my life. And so I can't expect someone who's an extrovert. Why are you laughing, Nisha?
Keep going.
I can't expect someone who's an extrovert to understand that, because they want to go out to experience life, to enjoy life, to have an opportunity to talk. And for me, if I'm already stressed, that's a little overwhelming. So one of the things that I often say is, unfortunately, at this time, I need a little respite. I need to pull away. It's not you, it's me. I need to pull away and to gather myself so that I can be the best me when we're in conversation together.
Okay. That's easier said than done, I think. And I think that people have
Absolutely.
to learn how to do that. Because one of the questions is asked is, what if you don't want people all in your business? You know, she said business. That's why I was laughing. What
Okay.
if you don't want people to know? And I have more to say about that, but I'll let you answer that first.
Well, let's be honest. You can't get what you don't ask for, because you can't expect someone else to understand it. And I'm not saying to tell people the intricacies of what's going on in your life, but there is nothing wrong with saying to someone that I need a little space. I need some time to regain my composure, to think about and to assess what I need. And the beauty is that if you can allow someone to say that, if you can say that to someone else, I'm sorry, then the hope is that they can reciprocate and say that to you when they're feeling that way. And, unfortunately, we are in a community where everyone feels as though they don't want anyone to know what's going on in their life.
Right.
And I completely understand that, especially during times of stress and difficulties. We want to retreat and we want to hold things tight, but then we can't expect others to give us what we need or help us the way that we need if we can't tell them what we need.
I have a lot to say about that, but I was going to speak to, I'm going to switch gears because I was thinking, it'll become a very personal, look, we'll be having a one-on-one session, but I was thinking, I want to get to the part of empowering your mind and really, what does that look like? Because I know that, like it was said, some people binge on television shows, some people work out, some people do different things to release the stress, but I don't want to talk about just the release of the stress, but I want to talk about, how do you empower your mind? How do you take those necessary steps to really shift the mind process? Besides being the coach, that's the first thing I know you're supposed to do.
Well, I think that still is the same answer that I would give. And that is that we have to ask for what we need. We can't expect someone else to give us what we need if we don't have the opportunity to tell them what we need.
What if they don't
and
even,
so,
what if that's my thing is like, what if their mind doesn't even realize that this is something that I need? They've been functioning in a very dysfunctional space for so long that they think that it's normal. So you know what I mean?
But then the question becomes, if they think it's normal, why isn't it? So are you saying that we're talking about someone who is having difficulty in relationships and in work and in other interpersonal things going on in their life, that someone is seeing it and wondering what's going on, which is very different from someone who is deciding what they need and taking that into their own hands? So go ahead.
So I'm thinking about how, and I'll just say oftentimes conversations will be like, I can hear your stress, what's going on. So the bottom line is, if I'm not ready to share that, you know what I mean? Or maybe I don't even acknowledge it, or I don't realize it. It doesn't mean, so somebody else coming off saying it could sound judgmental. When there's no acknowledgement. You see what I mean? There's no acknowledgement because I don't even know, or I don't realize.
And that becomes an interpersonal issue with yourself. And I think that, I push on that because that's one of the things that I think we tell ourselves. When you're stressed and someone says you're stressed and it hits a nerve because you know that that's really how you're feeling, but you don't want to open up to it or you can't acknowledge exactly what's going on, or you don't feel safe in the relationship to share. And all of those things are very, very valid. That's not a problem. The problem becomes if the stressors in your life are interfering with your interpersonal interactions, with your work, with the things that you do outside of work that bring you joy. That is when you have an issue and you need to look at some support.
Okay. All right. The comment is, instead of saying you seem stressed, say, how are you feeling?
Absolutely. And that changes the whole dynamic, because what you have done in asking how someone's feeling is giving them permission to tell you, as opposed to assuming that you know how they're feeling. And so the same way that I say you have to ask for what you need, you have the right also to have someone ask you, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you coping? We often say that so flippantly. How are you doing? How was your day? And we don't wait for an answer, or we just give the pat answer of everything's fine and your whole life's falling apart. But because you don't feel safe or you don't want to share, then you don't give that information. And so that's not necessarily a wrong per se. It has to do with the person, the community, and the situation as to what they want to share and when they want to share. But someone asking, how are you feeling or how are you doing, is never wrong.
Okay. I was thinking about this. If you guys have just joined us, we're with Dr. Crystal Brown Lewis. She's a life coach and psychotherapist and clinical psychologist. And so we really want to talk about really coping and empowering your mind, releasing the stress, and learning how to cope in the world, and where basically we've been masked for the last 2 years, almost 2.5 years. We've been masked and we have not been able to express. I think the masks, now that they're coming off, everything is coming off, right? But I was thinking about family dynamics, and I was thinking about how people don't necessarily, they want what they want from family. And I was thinking about the stress from family. Just really understanding, how do we ask, how are you feeling, without the other person hearing our stress?
Well, that's a double-edged sword, Nisha. If you're saying it in stress, they're going to hear stress because that's what's apparent. I think that, the basis of all relationships have
care, though. I'm going to interrupt you and say, and still hearing the care piece. That's what I'm trying to say. Not the judgmental, not the trying to fix it, but just, you may get your head chopped off one way or the other, but at the same time, just the presentation of it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. How do you present the how are you feeling?
And I think that most all relationships that are productive and beneficial and encouraging start with one word: respect. And so if there is a level of mutual respect, regardless of what you are going through, you will hear and know that the person who you're speaking to has concern, authentic concern for your well-being. And so I think that, I think it's naive of us to assume that people will get upset based on what we've said. The upset usually stems from what's going on in them. And so if they are feeling stressed or anxious or just sad, you asking and them not having identified it or wanting to even acknowledge it to themselves is going to seem like an affront, because then you are putting your feelings onto me. But you can't take that personally. One of the huge problems that comes with communication is taking things personally.
Yes.
If I bump into someone at the grocery store and they snap my head off, I've met them for 2 seconds. Whatever happened and proceeded and happened in their life before they met me is what's causing that. I have nothing to do with it. And so we have to be conscious and aware that while we may be the center of our families and our loved ones' attention, we are not the center of the universe and the center of the world. And so things that happen to us may not be because of anything that we have done. We may have met a person on a really bad day. And so the grace I hope that we would give is to flick it off and just say, oh, must be having a bad day, instead of internalizing it and say, I didn't say anything. I didn't mean, why did they? It's not our issue to try and figure out. It's not our discernment that we need to process.
Oh, good doctor. If that was just so easy for personality types.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and it's none of it's easy though, Nisha. None of
No.
it. Let's talk about relationships. None of it's easy. And so the hope and the goal is that it will become easier. Because once you are conscious of asking for what you need, for realizing that those things that others may be experiencing may have absolutely nothing to do with you, you can then not take it personally.
Okay.
And it's a process. It's an activity that we have to engage in. I get cut off on the expressway. I have to say, you know what? Obviously, that person has to go somewhere really important, and I'm gonna let them go. I may have a few other things to say under my breath, but you know what? I can't let that affect where I am and how I am feeling, because then I'm now carrying someone else's stress.
Okay.
I got enough.
Yes. Well, okay. So I want to move a little bit into, you were talking about relationships, but I kind of want to move into like the spiritual world, because something happened today from a friend of mine whose cousin got murdered over in Nigeria by terrorists. And I spoke with her today, and he was a husband, a very affluent attorney, and had 3 children, married, and 3 children. And so she said to me today, you know, why did God allow this to happen to him? He was a good person. And so I want to just address that, because that question has really been, I've been addressed with that question at least 4 times in the month of March. And I really kind of wanted you to speak to that, from helping people understand. I mean, of course, we know I can give the biblical term, but I really just want people to have a better understanding as well.
Well, I can't speak as a spiritual guide or someone who, that would be your arena.
You could, though. You could.
Well, but that would be based upon my own spiritual and religious journey and experience. However, I do hear that often, and I do hear it in my practice often, people wondering, why did God allow this to happen? And I have to say, was it God? I mean, we live in a world where bad things happen. God gave us this really ridiculous thing in my mind called free choice. You know, we live in a world where we can make decisions that will hinder or enhance our lives and the lives of others. And not only that, we live in a world where there is evil, and bad things happen to good people for absolutely positively no reason whatsoever. And so we have to be mindful of the fact that while we want to ask God what he did, what we did, why did this happen? There may be no answer to the why. And so coming to grips with there is no answer, but there is support and comfort and grace in your bereavement is what we can do. But there are many questions, and that's a primary one where there is no answer. There's nothing someone can tell you about the death of your loved one that will make you say, oh, that's great, thanks, now I understand it. It won't happen. What they can do is provide you with words of wisdom, words of comfort, words of support, and to be encouraging in your journey.
That's good. But I want to ask you this too. when do you know it's the right time for words? Because words of wisdom and comfort and
Mhm,
encouragement
mhm,
are
mhm,
not always received, especially if the
mhm,
family is close. You know, it's so
mhm,
funny how
mhm,
we can accept things from a total stranger more than when a family member comes along and tries to. And I don't want to use the word fix it. I think it's just
mhm,
wanting to be that support system.
mhm, mhm,
So what is the best way to really be that support system in a community or a family where you've seen the disappointment in what life has
mhm,
dished out? What is the appropriate way? Not just asking how you're feeling, but to offer
mhm.
that wisdom, to offer that support.
I
Mm,
think that offering wisdom and support is underestimated. Sometimes when we are in the grieving process, we don't know what we need. And so it is not unfamiliar for someone to say, I have no idea. But what you have to be able to do is to allow them that and to let them know that I am here when you need me. Here are some words of support. Here are some words of encouragement. I am praying for you, but I need you to know that while I can't walk in your shoes, I can walk with you
yeah,
on your journey. And I will be here in the way that best suits you, not me, but in the way that best suits you. And that may mean that you are calling and checking in every couple of days just to let them know that you're thinking about them. Maybe you don't get a response, but they will hear that and they will hear the love and concern. And when they are ready, they will be able to reach out.
wow, wow. I always say a Selah moment because it's like a pause. But if you guys are watching and you've joined us, I want you to reach out to Dr. Crystal Brown Lewis. Don't sit back and just not have the tools of how to empower your mind and release the stress. You can definitely look up onto her website and connect with her just to really grab more of these words of wisdom and nuggets to help you through your journey called life, and whatever life has brought you during the season or seasons past or seasons present. But I love the fact that you always bring us to go forward and not just to stay stuck. And that's kind of what I wanted to kind of end with. I wanted to really dive into just really helping people to get unstuck of releasing
Mhm,
that stress and not living in it,
mhm,
and
mhm,
having that the grace to kind of move forward. And I know we talked about working out. We talked about having loved ones. I thought about this while we were talking, when you were talking, as Wes always says, I hate when people call and say, how are you doing? When
mhm,
with
mhm,
bereavement, because he's like, what do you mean, how am I doing? You know what I mean?
mhm,
Well,
mhm, mhm,
doing as well as to be expected. But the
mhm.
bottom line is that to help people to get unstuck, you guys do need to go to drcrystalbrownlewis.com to get unstuck. That is one thing. But people that just, want to wallow and just stay there, or
Well,
maybe they don't.
and you know what? The reality is there's something to be said for being stuck for a moment. You know, tragic things happen in our lives, tragic situations occur, and people assume we should be able to move on and keep going and just, take the next step forward. And that's not authentic. Everyone needs a time to feel sad, to feel disconnected, to feel as though their entire world is falling apart. Because the reality is, during that moment, it is. And one of the things I think we do that is detrimental is we try and either rush the grieving process or rush the grieving person. And so we have to be available and ready when they need us. When they are open and available to us and want to receive what we have to offer, we have to be available. We can't anticipate that now you've been grieving for 2 years now, okay, now it's time. We can't do that. Grieving is a fluid process. The ebbs and the flows of the relationship and of the grief process, there is no static point where you go, I'm done. You learn to live through it. You don't get over it. And so one of the things that I would say is if you are finding that whatever point you are in your life is causing difficulty in your personal and interpersonal relationships, if you are noticing that the things in your life that used to bring you joy are no longer bringing you joy, if you are finding it difficult to get out of the bed and get your day going, if it is hindering your work performance, your boss is saying, you know what, you are really slacking, what's going on? That's the time to step into asking for some support.
Mm.
And one of the things that I encourage is that support doesn't have to be ongoing. Support is when you need it, how you need it, and where you need it. So
Mm.
maybe you need someone to walk with you through their journey right now. 6 months, a year, 2 weeks, whatever. There's nothing wrong with asking for that and then being able to receive it.
Wow. I think that is so powerful and impactful to just embrace that all of what you just said. And I was thinking about this. We're celebrating Women's History Month, and you're the last person that we're celebrating with for Women's History Month. And I know that women have a tendency to be fixers, but I know plenty of women who are going through the grief of divorce, the grief of what used to be with their life, the grief of just really turning over 50 or and not having your younger years, and not just tragic loss. So I think about that, and grief just doesn't have to fit into a mold of death. It could be grief of so many things of what you covered today. And so I would like to leave people with encouraging words on what really can they what can they do, last but not least, you know what I mean, to just really step into that space of healing, starting the healing process. Because I know coaching is moving forward, but so many people haven't healed from their yesterday, and so there's grief still there, and they haven't moved past it in order to even see a future. So I'd like
Mhm.
for you to share just a little bit of support along with coming to see you, but to
Mhm.
discipling the counseling and the coaching and the grief moving forward, being unstuck, this, that, and
Mhm.
the other.
Well, Nisha, you just put a whole bucket into
I
two
know, I
minutes. And
did.
so I am not going to be able to tackle all of those, but I would like to give and leave a few words of encouragement because, and I hope I am not sounding too redundant, but you have to ask for what you need. And it is really difficult for women to ask for support. We are the givers. We're the nurturers. We're the ones who make sure everything flows and operates correctly. And so during those times when we are feeling stuck or not feeling our best, or just feeling as though something is not the way we would like it to be, sometimes you have to take a moment, take a step back, reassess the situation, look at it with clear eyes, and sometimes you will get a new perspective on what is going on in your life. And so there is no, and I wish I could give you a bullet that would say, this is the thing to do, but everyone's journey is different. And because everyone's journey is different, and because everyone's needs are different, what they will receive will be different. But I will say this: surround yourself with people who encourage and uplift you. Surround yourself with a spiritual or religious community that gives you encouragement and joy, and surround yourself with love. And if you are able to do those things, you will find your way out
I'm being
of
healed.
the despair and the grief and the disappointment, because it only happens for a season. And if we really think about it in the totality of our life, it's a drop in the bucket
Mm,
for where we are going, not where we have been.
that's
Can't
good.
change the past, can only change the future, and you get to dictate exactly how you want it.
That's good. That's good. I think that though you did kind of leave us with a bullet, and that bullet is ask for help. Don't stay stuck. Ask for help, and then if you are a person who doesn't need help, ask others, how are you feeling, and offer the wisdom and the support that you can offer without trying to fix it. So those, I mean, those are the bullet points, and it didn't sound redundant. It sounded like no matter which way we turn, we had to come back to that every single time to
Yeah,
say, ask for help. Only you know what you need, or you know you're not feeling your
absolutely.
best self. Okay, you may not know
Absolutely.
what you need, but you know you're not feeling your best self to be able to
Absolutely.
function the way. So ask for help or ask someone, not how can I help you, but how are you feeling? Not how
Mhm,
can I help you,
mhm,
right? How
mhm,
about to go the
mhm,
other direction?
mhm, mhm.
I think
And how can I help you can be something you trail in the end. But most people when they're in the midst of something, they may not know.
that's true.
And so that little piece makes you feel even worse because I don't even know what I need. But what I need is someone to encourage me and to walk with me and to support me in my journey. And sometimes just being that person who says, thinking about you, love you, sending you
Yeah,
hugs. I know this is a difficult time, and I know there are no words that I can say to make you feel better, but I want to encourage you that you know that I am here if you need me.
that's so good. Sometimes I just send out a little text message or something, or I receive them thinking of you. You're on my mind. Those things make the world of
Absolutely.
difference. So
Absolutely.
So you guys
Absolutely.
reach out to Dr. Crystal Brown Lewis. You won't be disappointed. So many people are blessed by her. Hopefully you can get in where you can fit in because she's booked up
Yes.
30 of the time. But the bottom line is we appreciate you. I appreciate you as my sister friend. And it is a sister friend conversation. Because like I tell people all the time, I come to share the gift of what is being offered by people, but I'm sitting here like this. And I have to remember that I am the person sitting here having the conversation instead of the listener. So thank you for today. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you, Nisha. And thank you for the opportunity to speak about something I'm very passionate about. And it's self-care, mental health services, and finding someone to help enrich and encourage you. And so I also want to tell people that I am starting a new podcast soon, and it is called
Yes,
Courageous Conversations by Dr. Crystal. And some of these things we will talk about, but to encourage people to have those courageous conversations, either with themselves, with their loved ones, or with anyone else.
that's wonderful. We'll be on the lookout, you guys, for the new podcast with Dr. Crystal, Courageous Conversations. Until next time, we will see you guys soon with Nisha's Network and Insightful Moments with Nisha. We love you guys and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.